Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Welcome to the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 53, coming to you from the desolate wastelands of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're recording on September 3rd, and I am your host, Elric Edge, and with me is...
Bill Costello.
Oh, we're going to have a loaded show here. We have a ton of stuff to cover in the New Dawn. Games Workshop has been incredibly busy. I have a game to talk about. You have games to talk about, but yours will come in a different segment because you are going to ramble on about Nova Open.
Yes, I am.
So
you can probably hear it in my voice. I have very little of it left.
Yeah.
Because this was one hell of a weekend.
Yeah. Very envious. So, yeah, that's pretty much going to be a show. We're going to have Bill got a ton of interviews in Nova.
I got so many that we can't do them all in one show. We're going to probably space them out over the next couple of shows.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Very cool. And then, I think that's pretty much going to be our lore section. And we don't have Ryan with us tonight, so
not to do the realm because that's a 3-man project there.
Yeah,
so
it is.
To get it done and accurate.
So yeah, let's just jump into this monster.
Well, yeah. Just before we go, though, I want to say one thing want to bid a fond final farewell to Heelenhammer. They hung it up for good.
Yeah.
They sold the equipment. They're out of it. So, they took that hiatus, then they went back to every 2 months. Then recently they put the word out that they're done, and he was selling the equipment.
Yeah, I can empathize with it.
Yeah, it's hard to do that, and they've been doing it for, 9-10 years? So,
yeah, a while.
Yeah, so good luck to them on whatever it is they do, and I'm sure they'll still be doing South Coast GT and still play testers for GW, so I'm sure we'll hear from them, but not as regularly.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get to see him at Adepticon next year as well.
Yeah. So move on to New Dawn?
Yeah. The Realm of the New Dawn, where we're going to talk about the flood of new stuff that GW has put up that has either come out this last week or been put up on pre-release or pre-order. There you go. So where do you want to start on this monster?
Well, I have a list.
Okay.
So first thing for all the American listeners, there is now the open Warhammer Citadel out in Grapevine, Texas. I haven't been there yet, but I'll be going there in a couple of months for an accurate report. But from what I hear, it's a pretty cool place. They had their big grand opening, a couple weekends ago?
Yeah. Was
it last weekend?
I think it was last weekend.
Yeah. The one before Nova. Because I think all the GW team went from there.
Yeah, that's right.
And then just flipped over to Nova. So they weren't nearly as beat down as sometimes.
Yeah. The jet lag had eased up a little bit.
Yeah. So, and then we have the announcement they made that they're going to bring the Warhammer Citadel GW type grand tournament circuit to the United States. Obviously, probably running a few events here and there, but probably more centralized at that Citadel in Grapevine, Texas. So, and I think the announcement was sort of meant, and it was phrased in a way, they're not going to try to compete with other, the other big named events, but just offer people a chance to play in Games Workshop style, grand tournaments.
Well, they also made the announcement that they're going to endorse major events. So I'd imagine that'd be the big three: LVO, Adepticon, and Nova.
Well, even in that announcement about endorsements, it's you need 130 players. So those are big events to get endorsements, which I understand. They can't go to every 30-man tournament and say, here's a whole bunch of stock. And they do support these events with terrain and
they do
new hotness and prizes. So yeah, I can see, 130 is probably might be a little high, but you have to put a number somewhere and start from there. So
yeah,
I can't beef at them too much for that. There's this other little thing they announced. I don't know, some kind of battle tome with, Chaos guys on the front.
Yeah, man. Battle tome Beasts of Chaos got announced, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, It's what we've always been talking about is roll some of this little stuff into
Yeah.
a big book. And yeah, it's going to happen.
And the endless spells that got previewed look freaking sweet for
my
them.
God.
So, I mean, it's unfortunate that it doesn't look like they're going to get any additional models. I think maybe another character model or two would have been cool for Brayherd or whatever. But the fact that it's going to be so many of these little factions, Warherd, Brayherd, Thunder Scorn, General Beast of Chaos and stuff is all going to be put into one book. I like that. I think the Legions of Nagash book was a perfect example of how you can just kind of tie up a lot of loose ends and make it one coherent thing while also still having distinct flavors.
Right.
So,
yeah, and it allows you to pick and choose really what you spend your money on, because if you're not real big into other kinds of death, you can just buy the Night Haunt book, and you can live on that book. Whereas, if you want to do something else, you got Legions of Nagash to fall back on. Mm-hmm. And I imagine at some point they'll probably do other flavors of death. Death Rattle might make a reappearance. Who knows?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to put words in their mouth, but...
We'll see.
Yeah.
And then, Orktober.
It's almost here.
A pun that I will allow.
Oh, nice. Oh, an Elric approved pun.
Yeah. Well, not approved.
Oh.
I will just simply
condoned.
Allow that one to slip through. Yeah, the stuff that they've previewed, the buggies, look fantastic. Looks so good.
Well, and you got to kind of figure they also, sort of rolled out Speed Freaks during the Nova event.
Yeah.
But they didn't roll it out. I mean, they announced and had pictures and all this. You got to figure those models are going to be in the Orc book somewhere.
Yeah, they better.
Yeah,
the Orc book sounds fantastic. So
yeah,
I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Yeah. And, I mean, I am so dying for that book. And, I'm not a huge Orc player, but I've always loved Orcs because I have a butt ton of them. Always really wanted to sit down and do it. So that's why I picked up the Orc team for Kill Team.
Oh,
because I wanted to get broken into it, and I'm just, man, I can't. If this Speed Freak stuff is any indication of what they're going to do, oh my God,
yeah, I'm hoping there's more new stuff as well.
I think there is. I think there's quite a bit. Just I don't know anything. I haven't heard anything, but the general feeling seems like there's a lot of new stuff coming out.
One can only hope.
Yeah.
So another thing that has me, if it's even possible, to be even more excited about 40K is Kill Team Rogue Trader.
Oh my gosh.
Rogue Traders have always been one of my favorite things about 40K. One of my favorite systems to play was the Rogue Trader role-playing game. I wish they would do more books, novels about Rogue Traders and everything. The fact that we're actually getting not only a Kill Team now for Rogue Traders, but it's been confirmed that we're going to get a codex.
Yes.
So that they can be played in normal 40K. Oh,
I know.
Yeah, I'm giddy. I've always wanted to do a Rogue Trader army using like Imperial Guard or whatever, just something like that.
Just about everything.
And
Imperial.
Now that it's going to be legitimate, I hope there's ways to you can have Eldar or Tau or something like that mixed in. Or, I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm,
it is truly crazy.
That has to be one of the coolest 40K announcements I've ever heard. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm very giddy.
I understand you. I feel it's going to be just new ways to play, and oh man, it's going to be so cool.
Yeah.
So this week up for pre-order, they put the Reaver Battle Titans for Adeptus Titanicus.
Yep.
So the game itself came out with the Warlord Titans, the big monster. Oh my God.
And the Knights.
And then it had the itty bitty little tiny Knights.
Yeah.
So now you're going to start to see some of the mid-range stuff coming out. So the Warlords, the Reavers coming out, and I would imagine in the not too distant future, the Warhound will come out. So.
Yeah, I think the Warhound, the pictures of it were shown.
I think so. Yeah, at the reveal.
Yeah. Which looks, I mean, it's cool. I think the Reaver's only like $60.
Yeah, it is.
Something. So
it's $60.
That's not.
No, they're not beyond.
Not terrible.
No.
Especially considering that Warlord, I think, is bigger than a 40K Knight Titan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which is massive. Yep. So good times.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's do this last. So we got two more big announcements. Right.
Yeah.
let's jump into this one because it's got me
Please do.
buzzing. So, Lord of the Rings, the Middle Earth strategy battle game, is being. I mean, it's like been completely relaunched.
Yes.
Basically, it's they are putting all kinds of effort behind it. This new starter box looks phenomenal.
Oh my God, yes.
It's I mean, it's right in the vein of
Dark Imperium.
and
the Soul Wars.
yeah, exactly. You get tons of models.
84 miniatures.
Yeah, Anders, our local GW manager, had it assembled and out on the board to see yesterday when I was over there. And it is just a crap ton of just gorgeous models, man. You forget how good that Lord of the Rings stuff looks. And it's so different because it's true scale.
Yeah.
And then it's all still hand sculpted.
Yes.
Hand designed, unlike the new 40K and AOS stuff is all CAD design.
CAD done, yep.
So there's just something so
organic about it.
Yeah, I guess is a good term. And when it just tons of it is out on the table, it looks so good.
Oh man, the boards they had at Nova for the Lord of the Rings were just off the hook.
Yeah.
And you figure that when you see boards like that, you're probably going to see armies like that.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, did those guys. I mean,
the Perry twins don't mess around.
No. And the paint jobs that were there, I'm going to talk about that later, but just watching those Lord of the Rings guys go at it.
Got you all hyped, huh?
And, it was funny because every time we walked by the Lord of the Rings games and asked any kind of a question, the guys would be like, hey, yeah, this is what it is. This is how it works. This is how the new rules do it. Hey, you want to jump in? You want to grab a unit and play it for a while? I mean, they were just totally out there saying, hey, if you got some time, half hour, I'll let you run this combat. So, I mean, amazing bunch of guys. Yeah. Really.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And the deals that went up on pre-order this week. Tons of boxes is like 40 infantry for $40.
Yeah.
Like 12 cavalry for like 20 or $32 or something like that.
Yeah, they were super crazy good deals.
Yeah, so if you've been on the fence like I have for a long time about it, it's time to get off and pull the trigger.
Oh, yeah.
I know Bill came home with a big old sack of it. And
my wife came home with that.
Yeah. I told her I'd be more than willing to bring it for you. Yeah, and I'll be pulling the trigger on it here very soon as well.
Nice.
So, and then let's jump into the Nova announcements.
Sure.
So you were there, but you didn't make it.
I didn't make I couldn't go that night, but of course it was the big buzz. Yeah. And they put it all up on the community site too, but they announced Speed Freaks.
Yep.
Which is a standalone game for orc buggies.
Yeah. Well, and looks like bikes too.
Yeah, bikes and the vehicles.
Yeah.
Fast vehicles, because red goes faster.
Yep.
And it looks like a hoot. And talking to the guys that have played it, they're all like, yeah, it's kind of a game that you have to take seriously, but you cannot take seriously.
Okay. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah, it's orcs. It's, a lot of them said, just think back to kind of the most funniest parts of Gorka Morka. And you kind of get an idea of where they're headed with it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Then next up, Sisters in this year's chapter approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the beta rules for the Codex are going to be in this year's chapter approved. Obviously, since the Codex is coming out next year, this is going to be a pared down version to fit, so they don't take the whole book over. But it's going to give Sisters players a chance to already get out there and get that army on the table and play it and have fun with it until the real Codex drops and all the brilliant new models I'm sure they're going to do. That's...
Start building hype.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's going to do.
Following that, we got Sir Hector.
Yeah, that was one of the funny announcements, I thought, was there is now a character for your Titans. Your
Night Titans?
Yeah. And it's Sir Hector. Well, and if you've been following the Warhammer community stuff, that might have a tie-in to some employee of Games Workshop who's pretty famous about wearing a couple of thin coats or something. I don't know. But yeah, I just thought that was a funny thing to mention, that they're actually doing a model because there's been so much call for it.
Nice.
And I don't know if you also heard they're doing a decal sheet for House Griffith.
That got announced.
And when I was in one of the, I was in a bunch of Duncan's classes, but he was talking about how he had nothing to do with that. This was all emails and messages to the company saying, hey, we want to be able to do House Griffith. We need decals. How can we get them? So, boom, they did it.
Nice.
So that's the power of talking to GW these days. 5 years ago, you could talk to, you were blue in the face, and they'd be like, get out of here, kid.
They'd send you a cease and desist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you need confirmation that they've turned around, that's it. The other thing is in their electronic tools department, the command roster tool that's used to build kill team rosters is also going to go electronic. They're going to have it up on the community site for people to use. Yeah, and that's going to be a great thing because there's a lot of people playing kill team. The kill team tournament out there was huge, and it was pretty amazing the way, because you could join more than one pod to try to move forward. So if you were willing to play a lot of games, you could, help yourself move forward. And there was one guy there I was talking to, he joined 4 pods in the early rounds to just make sure that he moved through and got. So I'm like, God, how many games did you play? He's like, a lot.
Yeah. Jeez.
So yeah, the game's really, that one's taken off big. So they're going to have that support for it online.
That's awesome. Next up, we got Warhammer Underworld's Night Vault.
Yep.
So for all you people that kept calling it Shadespire,
we are wrong.
Yeah, it is Warhammer Underworlds, and this would be the second edition called Night Vault. And they only showed the new, exorcism chamber.
Yeah.
What are they called? Exorcist chamber?
Sacrosanct.
Yeah, that's the one. Sacrosanct chamber.
And the Night Haunt.
And the Night Haunts.
Yeah, but those are all new sculpts, new models.
They look fantastic on both
Same
sides.
deal. They're going to fit into your regular AOS armies.
Yeah.
So,
then gorgeous. Was anything else confirmed? I know there's some other factions that they've really hinted at will be coming to
Shadespire or
Underworlds.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, my bad.
I know that a Quadrant Overlords one has been hinted at, and I'm trying to think of who else. I'd imagine a Daughters of Cain could not be too far
Can't be too far back.
Possibly Zinch and Nurgle.
Deepkin,
yeah. I mean,
I'll bet you they'll hit, a lot of the ones that have been recent and maybe some pull from the past,
Yeah.
Pull from some of the older, maybe a Seraphon faction, a Seraphon band.
Maybe.
I mean, they have a huge palette.
The Moon Clan stuff. That troll
looks,
oh my God, that troll looks so good.
Oh, yeah.
Put that troll next to the shaman that came out with Malign Portents.
Mm-hmm.
And just, you can see that they have a design in mind for a new army for destruction.
Yeah, just a little.
All my Destro bros out there, just hang on. There's got to be some.
Our day is coming.
Yeah, there's got to be some sweet stuff coming down the pipe. And then the Realm of Chaos, Wrath, and Rapture. This would appear to be Slaanesh and Khorne.
Really?
Throwing down in some crazy battle. So, looks like we're going to get Slaanesh demons and Khorne demons, which I don't know what they would do for Khorne demons, but they could definitely redo some Slaanesh stuff, maybe?
The Slaanesh line could use a lot of revamping.
Yeah.
And I think that line will get revamped no matter what, because some of those models probably need to be phased out.
Yeah,
for the more kid-friendly, family-friendly, let's get this in Barnes & Noble crowd, you're not going to get too many demonettes.
Booby snakes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, I still say surprises me, the cover of the
Daughters of
Cain book, with the bikini woman. I kind of thought those days were gone. But I have to imagine there's going to be, well, not phased out, but the new Slaaneshi stuff is going to probably maybe focus on different areas.
Yeah,
maybe gluttony and, other sins rather than
That'd
just.
be cool.
Yeah. So I know the Slaanesh guys that were there were all completely jazzed because this is something they've been waiting for. Although I have to admit, I got my butt handed to me by a Slaanesh army pretty much turn one.
Ouch.
Yeah, I was kind of. I think I was tabled by the top of 3. Well, I would have been tabled. I'll get into it when we get into our games. So
nice.
Yeah, they're good now.
Yeah,
they're going to be gooder later.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. Also, you don't have this in here, but it's also been apparently confirmed that on the 40K side, there is going to be Codex World Eaters and Codex Emperor's Children coming, which is awesome. So it looks like a lot of corn and a lot of Slaanesh stuff is going to be
makes perfect sense
dropping. So very, very hyped.
Yes,
for a Codex World Eaters book. Get a whole bunch of new Berserkers that look like the new Khorne model. That would look, or the new Karn model.
Yeah.
Would be fantastic. And maybe Angron?
Maybe Magnus and Mortarion will have a buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'd also get Fulgrim as well.
Sure.
Potentially.
I'll bet you they're going to look over the top.
Yeah.
Anyways. I can't wait. God.
So much good stuff. And we're not even done yet.
Yeah. Not yet.
So, campaign books for Lord of the Rings.
Yes. That was one of the announcements. And if you saw how the Lord of the Rings stuff went out, in the big box, they have the core rule book. It's a 208-page hardback. You can also buy it separately if you don't need the stuff. They also put out an Armies of Middle-earth book, which covers the armies of Middle-earth. So you're not going to... They tried to lessen that impact for people that had everything from before. So now you buy one book and you're updated. You're there.
That's good.
So instead of nickel and diming it, here's Mordor, here's Rohan, here's So that was a really, I think, slick move on their part, and will help ease the burden on the people that have been playing for a long time. But the continuing support for the game is going to come in the form of campaign books, which are going to have specific campaigns. And then different ways to approach them, different terrain ideas, all the stuff to help you build, like, what was the Scouring of the Shire look like? What was the Battle for Mirkwood look like? What did the Battle of 5 Armies look like? And if you can do that on a table, you're my hero.
Yeah.
So, all these things, the box set is the Battle of Pelennor Fields, which is outside of Minas Tirith, but that's just one I don't want to say small battle, one large battle in an entire war that took place.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of other stuff they could delve into, and, they're hinted at in the books, and that they have license to explore. So I can imagine there's going to be a bunch of very cool campaign books that come out, and I'm dying for the Saruman Orthanc. Give me some more Uruk-hai, and let's do this.
Nice.
So, campaign books.
Sweet. And then finally, crossing the finish line here, probably one of the coolest announcements, probably the one that I'm hyped the most about out of what came out of Nova, was Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress. So it's 40K using the Warhammer Quest system, which is genius.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely genius. So hats off to whoever behind the scenes was like, wait a second.
This will work perfect.
Yeah.
Well, all we have to do is change the cards.
Yeah.
Exact same system. Nothing needs to change.
Yeah.
Just cards for the different types of characters. Yep. That's all.
And then make the board look like maybe a Space Hulk or a Hive City or
if it's going to be the Blackstone Fortress, it's going to be on board that ship.
Oh, yeah, that too.
And it's going to be, you're going to have sections that are fully involved in the warp and sections that are fully in the material. And so you could really literally do anything in one of those.
And looks like we're going to get brand new Chaos Space Marines.
Who knew?
Finally, after Lord, I'm trying to think of how old that kit is. I don't think it's changed since I've been playing, and that's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, because other than the new Nurgle stuff, the Blight, I don't remember any new Chaos models coming out.
The cult troops have all gotten newer stuff, except for Noise Marines, which I'm sure will potentially get something there. So I guess this box will have like 3 new Chaos Space Marines in it, and then those 3 will be included in the box of 10 that will be coming later. That's what I've heard. So I don't know. Either way, I'm sure we'll hear Chaos Space Marine players cry about it. Anyways, I think just got Space Wolves. You'd think Chaos players would be happy.
Yeah, exactly. I got looked at so many times from people that were hardcore Space Wolf players. I was riding up in the elevator with a guy, and he had his whole Space Wolves thing and on his display board. And I was like, "Oh, cool! Chaos Space Marine's awesome." And his two buddies just started cracking up. He's like, "I hate you, man."
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah, it's all in good fun.
So, additional announcements would be that Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr just finally launched on the PS4.
Yes.
And there is a new video game that I cannot think of at the moment that is set in the old world for Warhammer Fantasy. And I cannot think of the name of it. So I will try to have more information on that next time and talk about that as well.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
Onward to what we've been up to in the hobby.
Did we marathon that? Yeah. Okay.
I think so. That was brutal.
All right, so we're going to jump into creation now with our hobby talk. And obviously with something like Nova coming up, I had quite a lot of last minute stuff to do. One of the things I had to build for the narrative event out at Nova was an airship of some kind, because that was one of the things you needed to bring. You needed to bring a special character and an airship. And so, yeah, I had an interesting, the week before the week of Nova, I had what was probably the worst work week of my life.
Yeah, you were awfully quiet.
Yeah,
in our group chat and everything. I was
at work 14 hours a day, and yeah, I was eating, drinking, and sleeping, the problem I had at work. So I got nothing done that week.
Oh, that sucks.
It was hellish, but I did manage to build my Nurgle airship. I'll take a picture of it and put it up in the Facebook group. I think I've already done it, but I'll do it again. I think it came out pretty cool. It's kind of a sort of a trawler looking ship, but it's got a copper dragon bolted onto it like Nurgle might do, or bolted into it.
Yeah.
So, as well as some pustules, and there's a Nurgling driving it, and then there's a Nurgling with the Sword of Judgment commanding it. Nurglings all over it. So, and it was pretty well received. Everybody that saw it liked it a lot. The judges out there at Nova liked it a lot, but I definitely got beat out by this young lady, Rebecca Ali, who built a Sylvaneth airship out of the leaves from all the Citadel woods that everyone throws away. And yeah, those leaf sprues. And she did such an amazing job on that Sylvaneth airship. It blew everybody that saw it away. It was as close to a perfect impression of what a Sylvaneth airship would look like. You know, if GW was to come out with it, that's probably what they would do.
Nice.
So, yeah, it was gorgeous. Just gorgeous. But I'm pretty proud of mine. I like the way it came out.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah.
Definitely got to put that out there.
Yep. I'll take some pictures of it and toss it up on the Facebook group. Another thing that I wanted to pass on in creation was one of our listeners, Charles Fox, hit us up with a message and told us that those last time in the Realm of Creation talked about the wash brushes that I got in the asset drop box.
Yeah.
That came over from England. So all you have to do is search on Amazon for wash brush or wash pens. And you'll see he says you can get a package of 3 of them for like $8.
Oh, wow.
Which is super cheap. And it's a great way to try the process and see if it's something you like.
Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Fox, for sharing that with everybody. Really appreciate it. Also, I was going to talk about some of the Nova stuff. I want to talk about the classes with Duncan.
I want to dip into the hobby stuff now.
Yeah, it's
instead
creation.
of just one giant load at the end.
Yeah, I don't want to drop it all.
All right.
So I managed to do, a few seminars with Duncan. Those were pretty over the top, amazing, fun. Not because the content was something we'd never seen before or anything. Right. Although his approach to painting black was really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, it's really neat. I like it. It really makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of one of those, why didn't I think of that?
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it's really just a case of starting with a dark, dark gray and then highlighting all that and then using like a null oil wash to bring it up to black. So, because if you try to highlight black, you're going to lose.
Yeah, there's not a lot of contrast in the...
Or there's far too much.
Yeah.
So, and it looks, garish and painted on.
Well, I've noticed a lot of... Because I follow a lot of the Black Templar or Imperial Fist style pages on Facebook. And the Black Templars that look really good are the ones that aren't black.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yep.
But, yeah. There's
that's
definitely a technique.
That's what I was telling him. I love the Black Templars and Raven Guard, so I have a lot of black in my future.
Yeah.
And, also Inquisition and Death Watch. So, yeah, there's a lot of black in my future, and this is really a great technique. But it's not so much, what he's showing you, because the other class I took was painting the metallics, with the Citadel system. And we've pretty much seen it all before on the different videos. But to be there with Duncan in person, first of all, is a riot. He's one of those people that can engage a room full of people and you feel like he's talking just to you.
Nice.
Yeah. And then when he comes, it's an hour and a half long class. So he's coming around during the different steps and seeing how you're doing, making suggestions, checking the consistency of your paint and all this stuff and saying, well, it needs to be a little thinner here or, blue, do this, do that. So it was really, it's super well worth taking these GW classes. I did the ones with Peachy at LVO, and it's the same thing. Their ability to interact with you directly is what makes those classes so great. It's not that you haven't seen a lot of these techniques on a lot of their videos.
Yeah.
It's the getting that immediate course correction if you go a little off. So Those were great classes. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on was something that myself and a few other people out at Nova noticed this year. And it might be because Chuck ran a different painting rubric this year than years past, or something in the water out there on the East Coast or something. I don't know. But the level of painted armies in the GT and the narrative was just off the hook good. And, I was there with Gareth Moroney and, the guy from Best Coast Pairings and stuff. And we were like, the bottom bar, what made an army average this year was so much higher than it had been in the past. And it's so much higher than I've seen anywhere else that it's, cause usually there's a few armies that separate themselves.
Yeah.
And you still had that here. You had Martin Orlando's amazing, I forgot what he calls that army, but he has that amazing pagoda display board and the Stormcaster all done up in the samurai theme.
Oh, nice.
They're just amazingly beautiful when he puts them out there. And, there were armies like that. And, they do separate themselves from the pack. But where the pack was so much better than I've seen at a lot of different events. I don't want to say every event, but it was really a high bar for the average army.
Nice.
And it was really great to see that people are hitting the hobby that hard and trying that hard and putting that much effort into it. So I think we're going to get to a point to where, these 3-color minimums are going to be a thing of the past. It's going to be fully painted. So
maybe. That is cool, though.
Yeah, it really...
It's always good to hear. I noticed that, when I was at Adepticon, the hobby level was something else, man.
Yeah.
So...
It's nuts. So good to see. And the other thing is, seeing they had all the special award models put in glass cases right at the entryway where everyone can see and vote on them, and trying to vote for a best, a favorite mini when you have hundreds of miniatures in these glass cases and each one you look at is better than the one you just saw.
Yeah.
And some of them are to the point to where it's like, oh my God, what did these people do? And of course they had on display the big Warlord Titan that was being raffled off.
Oh,
the 40K Ultramarines army that was being raffled off for charity. And those, here's an army. I think the guy said it was 4,700 points or something like that of Ultramarines.
Holy cow.
That somebody was going to win for a $2 ticket, a $2 raffle ticket.
Wow.
And the painting on this thing was next level. It was not, hey, here's some Blue Marines, here's some cool decals on the shoulders, and, some of the heroes look good. No, this was the Marine in the 14th rank of generic tactical Marines was a thing of beauty.
Jeez.
Yeah, it was somebody is going home with an amazing army. And all those award entries were
Yeah.
crazy good. And one of the nice things they had for the painting championship or the painting competitions this year was they had 3 classes. They had apprentice, journeyman, and master. So if you feel like your painting isn't at the level where you can compete with, a Vince Venturella, a Martin Orlando, some of those guys, you could actually jump into the lower classes where you'd be going up against people more your own skill level. And the judging was going to be not as, they're not looking for OSL on the apprentice level stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, it was really great. A lot of people were super excited about how they did that this year. So I hope that's something other shows take into account. So, not everybody's at the same level, but people put a lot of effort into it no matter what.
Sure.
So, yeah, that was really, really cool to see. One of the things I saw that was cool, you can be bumped up a class. So as they were evaluating things in the apprentice class, they might look at it and say, no, this is a master's level thing. But you couldn't win an award in the master's class. But like they said, the award was being bumped up because you can never get bumped down back to apprentice. So once you've reached a certain level with your painting, you'll be moved up into these different classes, which is in itself an award because they felt the judges felt like you were good enough to be promoted, as it were.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was a really neat system. I thought that was really, really cool. Really well done. And everybody was talking about it. Everybody was talking about how cool it was to have that kind of thing.
Well, if you win the apprentice, but still means you're not good enough for the masters.
Well,
other people leapfrogged over it. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I would imagine that if you won the apprentice, you would probably get bumped up to masters. And this is, ongoing year to year thing. It's not like it just happened Saturday. So this was a no. From now on, you have to enter masters because you're that good.
That's cool.
So yeah, I thought that was really an interesting way of looking at it and doing it. But that's really about it for creation. Do you have anything you want to hit on
this time?
Okay,
not this time.
Okay, but you will next time.
We're gonna try.
You will.
Yeah. You're goddamn right.
Yeah.
The Realm of Battle, where we're going to talk about games that we've both played.
Yes!
Because I finally got a 2.0 game in. Woo!
We're in this hobby.
Yeah. So I'll go over mine real quick, and then you can gush about Nova. So finally got a game in against Chad at the GW store. This would be my first game of 2.0, which is pretty sad, but I guess we all got to start somewhere. And he brought his Stormcast, which is basically what Ryan had at Clan Carnage.
Yeah.
He just bought Ryan's army because that's what we all do.
Yeah.
And I took my Iron Jaws because they're painted and ready to go and everything.
They're always ready to hit the table.
Yeah. So we played Star Strike, and it was obviously a learning game. We're both trying to learn the new rules and everything. And I had read it all when it first came out and then just hadn't really looked at it since. So I was, there were a lot of page turning and whatnot. But at first, it definitely looked like he had me. I know the meta seems to be that shooting is not so much a thing anymore. But, Stormcast are still pretty good at shooting. Just pretty good at ranged in general. He had a Star Drake that was dropping Rain of Stars on me, and Adjudicators, he had Dracoths, he had the Knight Azeros, or is that the bow guy?
Yeah, Azeros.
Yeah, he had a Knight Heralder.
Oh,
it was like I was just constantly eating damage at range as I was trying to run across the table. And then I did 4 wogs in one turn.
Oh my god!
On my whole army.
New pain.
Yeah. Yeah, and then what managed to survive that? I got a double turn on.
Oh, God,
so
that's not right.
By his turn 3, he had a Castellant with a couple wounds left, his Knight Relictor, which I hadn't gotten to yet, and then his Lord Celestant on Star Drake, which I was just ignoring.
You sure?
And I was like, "You wanna go ahead and call it there, buddy?" He's like, "Yeah, I think so." It was pretty fun. Multiple wogs with smashing and bashing.
Oh yeah,
pretty tasty. But again, he's he has like no idea what Stormcast do.
Right.
You know, he's learning everything.
Still figuring it out, yeah.
And give him that matchup again here in a couple months when he's had more games in. I'm pretty sure he'll be all right. I think Stormcast are pretty rough matchup for Iron Jaws when they're not just standing there waiting for a green tide to hit them in the face.
They could weather that.
So, yeah. But it was awesome to just experience it and try the new rules and all that stuff. So, and I think I really needed it to get the ball rolling again on on the hobby and everything. So
nice.
Hopefully that is the beginning of a avalanche of hobby.
Nice.
Or a trickle. I don't know. Either way, something.
Take it as it comes.
Yeah. So that was me. How about you?
I didn't really play much. I didn't.
I know we were going to try and get a game in before you went to Nova.
A practice game.
Yeah, that
didn't work out well.
No.
So, but no, got to Nova, and I was not able to take part in the Thursday night events for the narrative campaign because I had seminars to go to, and I had just flown in. I didn't really feel like trying to rip my army out of the bags and get it downstairs in an hour and a half. So I knew I was going to take Thursday night off, but that was the prologue night anyway. That was a night just to prepare for the next day. Some things about the narrative campaign out there at Nova. The campaign was set up so that players, you did not have to be at every game. There was no penalty for missing a game other than you didn't advance your hero and your airship. Now, the way these scenarios worked was we played basically book missions, General's Handbook missions. But all of them had, and I don't want to say secondary objectives, but they were sort of secondary objectives in that you had treasure piles, you had piles of other items that you could purloin. And so really, among a group of narrative players, the idea was to gain acclaim for your hero and gold to upgrade your airship. And so the narrative in all of us was like, oh, I'm going after the gold. Screw the objectives. I don't care if I win or lose. I want the gold, So most games devolved into that. You would pay lip service because you wanted to win the game because that's how you controlled the territories on the map for your team.
Well, you hyper-competitive narrative guys.
Yes, hyper-competitive. Let me start off where it starts.
You all desperately needed the wins.
Yeah, do anything for it. I was cheating. I was moving 6 when I should have moved 5.
Your narrative at all costs.
Yes.
Knack instead of whack.
Knack, baby. I like that. Sending that one on. But to start out with, first thing Friday morning when the 3-day event kicked off, we all moved upstairs to the charity lounge and we had the first meeting. And that's when Brian and Aaron and Matt told us what the storyline was and how we would have to split up into these 4 different factions. Now, the factions they didn't mirror the Grand Orders, so it wasn't like Chaos, Order, Death, and Destruction, but they kind of had their own differences and goals and things to do in this realm of Dawnstar, which is a small realm inside of Ulgu that's sort of insulated from the rest of Ulgu and exists kind of in its own space. Unfortunately, there was a god beast monkeying around with it, but we'll get to that.
Oh, boy.
And what we would do is we split into these 4 guilds, each of which had a different view of how things went. When you got gold and treasures, the relics were yours to keep. The gold should actually go to the guild so that it could be split amongst all the guild members. Kind of more along the lines of what happened was people would make gold and then go spend it because, screw the guild. But actually, no, we did, we in our guild at least, we did cough up some money to the coffer because my guild leader, Luke Snell, gave me some gold on the beginning of the second day because I had missed the last game of the first day because I was doing interviews and such. So he helped me out with that. But that was the whole goal, was to get gold, get a claim for your hero, and move through these games. And then each evening, so that would be Friday evening, there'd be a couple of games. Friday there was a couple of games. Saturday there was a couple of games. Sunday there was a couple of games. And they would all end up with an evening mega game. So the Friday mega game was the amazing boat battle, Yes. The amazing ship battle that you've probably seen on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else.
Yeah.
With the amazing, 3-foot long Heldenhammer. And just the ships that Brian Orban built were over the top amazing. And then the second night, Saturday night's main event, was a siege battle where they had 24 feet of wall to fight over.
Yeah, Aaron was sending me pics of that.
It was amazing. I can't say enough about Matt Tucker, the guy that put that together, that siege game. That was, and I told him this, and you'll hear it in the interview too, that was probably the best apocalypse type mission I've ever taken part in. Because at no point, with 20 people, 10 people on a side,
oh my God,
at no point was anyone sitting around bored, or was it not engaging, or was it not a near run thing, or, it just didn't bog down like a lot of those games will.
Yeah.
Matt had it perfected, and he had play tested the crap out of it, and it showed. You'll hear about that in the interview. So, but that's basically the story of the narrative. Okay. So I'm not going to go into each one of my games. I will just say that I played some great games. I played the first game. This is how narrative we were. The very first game, one of the guys had a seminar to do about halfway through the game. And we had matched up to play. I had matched up to play against this one lady, Rebecca Ali, who had that amazing airship, that Sylvaneth airship, award-winning Sylvaneth airship. But he also needed an opponent. So here's what we figured. I said, why don't you play for the first hour? And then when you have to leave to get to your seminar, we'll just take your models off. Whatever state you were in, if you'd lost, 1,000 points, I would put 1,000 points of my army on the table and we would pick it up from there. And Rebecca was cool with that. So that's how we did it.
Nice.
So that, he could get a game in and get some gold and get some treasure. And so could I. And she could, have a full game. So it's just that was the thread through the whole thing. We made up rules as we went along. And as long as Aaron and Brian said, yeah, no, that's good.
Nice.
It was awesome. The whole thing was so amazingly done. But yeah, and then, just like some of the other highlights, I played a game against Paul Bassard and his Slaneshi demons, which incidentally, if you're Nurgle, don't deploy forward enough that he can butt slam you on the first turn, because it becomes a 2-turn game.
Yeah.
As he wipes the floor with you. Yeah, it was pretty, Paul, he did me up a treat. But the beauty of our game was all those little treasure piles I was telling you about were actually these little wooden casks. They looked like little kegs. And the rule for most of the treasure piles was if you moved over it, you rolled a die. On a 1 through 5, you got that many gold pieces. On a 6, you got a relic. And then they decided that the relics weren't going out fast enough, so they changed it to a 5 or a 6. But basically, that's how you got your gold and your stuff, was to fight over those things. Except on our board, the kegs had a different rule. You could either do that option, roll the die and see how much gold or a relic you got, or you could send a note to Aaron and say, you owe me a beer. So Paul and I were having a grand old time, because I suppose we should have fought over the treasures, but why do you want to fight like that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were getting beers. Yeah, it was great. I'm sure competitive players would have just been like, I'm having a heart attack. You missed the objective, you idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was after the beer. It's okay.
Narrative at all costs.
So, yeah, that was the night. Like I said, we had the amazing siege game. And then on Sunday, the last day, where we were only using 500-point armies, the crux of the matter, we had woken up the God Beast during the siege, which was a bad thing.
Yeah. Because
now he was coming. And I'm not going to spoil the whole narrative, but the way it all worked out, it ended up in airship races. Which the ultimate goal of the campaign was to get your airship upgraded as much as you could, get your champion upgraded as much as you could, and knowing full well that the last game on Sunday was going to be airship races with just your airship and champion. The rest of your army was left behind.
Oh boy. And
the board that Brian Orban put together, I looked at it and I was like, boy, you like pod racing, don't you? And he was like, exactly. So yeah, it was a pod racing. I mean, there were caverns, there was overhangs, there was parts where you had to go underneath. Oh, it was over the top. It was just so brilliant. And like I said, I'm not going to go into each one of my games because game-wise, they were just very much like a game of Age of Sigmar with just very different goals in mind. And, we were a lot of times we were paying lip service to objectives because we wanted to treasure more. But that was the idea of the campaign, was to, get ready for that last scenario. What I do want to do in this time allotted to me is I want to throw some shout outs to the whole team that put the narrative together. And I want to make sure that these guys get out there on the air and get recognized for the incredible amount of work they did to make this thing work. So at the top of it all, you had Aaron Bastian, who put the whole thing together, and he was like the chief herder of cats. He is the lead for AOS narrative at Nova. So he was the one keeping everything going, keeping everything moving, and running everything bureaucracy-wise that you need to be at Nova. Brian Orban, our buddy, he's been on here quite a few times. He was the event lead. I don't know if you guys saw the tweets we had about the Neo versus Tio.
Yeah.
Because we had a great late Saturday night battle between Brian Orban, who was the lead for the narrative event, and Chuck Moore, who was the lead for the GT, AOS GT. And boy, that was one hell of a game. Oh my God. We're sitting there at like 2 a.m. watching cheering these guys on. And there was a guy who was streaming it on, I think, Periscope or something.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. It was a crazy good game with Brian's 3 war mammoths and Chuck's ungodly number of witch elves. So,
who ended up winning?
Brian ended up winning that one. So it was the Neo winning.
Telling you.
He wore down the...
More competitive than you want to admit.
Yeah. Well, what was funny was before the game, he had done the math, and Brian, he's pretty good at math. And he was like, he can kill one war mammoth a turn with his witch elves. So if he did not get the early strikes in to whittle those numbers down, he's like, it's all over. If I don't do good damage every turn to those units, he will kill me. But he did. He did enough damage. He had the magic. He had the Gaunt Summoner in there. He was throwing spells like, whew. And then, he had the War Shrine, and then he had a Balewind Vortex with the Gaunt Summoner. So he was putting out some spells.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was a fantastic, and of course, it was all in great fun.
Yeah,
because those guys are good friends. So yeah, it was really a blast to be involved with that. Some of the other people, Ben Marshall is the guy who wrote the narrative storyline for this whole thing. And I mean, it just reads like a novel. It reads like a good AOS campaign should read. Everything about it was engaging. You got into the story as you went along. So mad kudos to him. Matt Tucker, I actually was desperate to get an interview with Matt so that he could get, his side of the story out there. No, because he's the guy that put the Siege event together. Plus, he was also the Johnny on the spot. He was helping out with everything, as well as playing in the event. That Siege, like I said, that Siege was an apocalypse game that was as good as I have ever played in. Nice. And better than anything I'd played in the last 10 years.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it was just amazingly well run. You'll hear about it in the interview. I tell him how great he is about 50 times. So you also had Sean McAfee, who did the graphics and the art. And, if you see the player pack for this thing and you see all the stuff they had with special symbols for all the 4 different alliances or guilds, and all the stuff they put together, he was in charge of all that stuff. And plus, he's a great guy. You had Trevor Aleo. He was involved with the story development as well. Plus, he was the one that did the video trailer for the narrative event. So, yeah, that was just, I don't know if you saw that video trailer. Yeah. It was very cool. Very, very cool. And then, of course, a big shout out to Stephen Dole, who ran the Kids Hammer event.
Yeah.
That was another huge hit this year. I mean, it was just, I went up there more than a few times to watch the goings on. And wow. First of all, the armies, like you said, over at Adepticon.
Yeah.
The armies were, by and large, pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well painted.
Some of them kids can paint.
Yeah. And then they were playing. And, what I thought was really amazing was you had like a 15-year-old playing an 8-year-old. There was none of this, well, I'm older than you, so shut up. This is how it goes. No. He was like, yeah, this is what my stuff does. Here, you want to read it? Okay. And I mean, everybody was just playing AOS the way it should be played.
Yeah.
And they were having a grand old time. So I think that's the whole team that brought the narrative together. I think it is.
I hope so. That's a big team.
It was. It was really a big team. And, you know, some of these guys doubled up. Some of them were, you know, also helped prepare the GT and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they were going back and forth. I know Matt Hayward, he was the assistant TO for the GT, had done a lot of prep work for the narrative as well.
Oh, cool.
So, but yeah, those guys are a pretty good community. They have a really great club. They have a really great organization around there, and they get to work on all that stuff all the time.
Yeah, sure that helps. All right. Well, is that all the chatting we want to do about games?
Yeah, I think so.
Games, anyways.
Yep, we should jump into lore.
Sounds good.
All right. So, in the weird realm of lore thing today, what we're going to do is have some interviews that I did while I was out there at Nova with some of the players, some of the organizers, I should say, not players, and some of the vendors who were out there who had products that we've either used a lot or we know about or we think are really, really cool. So we're really not going to have a lot, or I'm not going to have a lot to harp about at the beginning. But a couple of things that I want to talk about that were pretty amazing about Nova Open. You had the release of the Lord of the Rings stuff on Saturday, the Battle for Pelennor Fields.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life was when the Warhammer store vendor hall closed on Friday night. It was your average convention Warhammer store. They had every system represented. Everything was on the shelves. Everything was just, you know, buy whatever you want. There was all kinds of stuff.
Right.
When they opened up Saturday morning, it was nothing but Lord of the Rings as far as the eye could see.
Oh, man.
It was like overnight restocking. I hesitate to think how much sleep those guys did not get to literally pull everything, replace it with all of, and anything you wanted for Lord of the Rings was there. Anything. It was just amazing what it looked like in there. And then a while later, I don't know how long it was later, but it kind of went back to being the regular GW store. So they had this little switcheroo planned. And I was like, that was one of the coolest things I have seen in a long time. A couple of other quick notes I want to talk about. I want to throw a shout out to Chuck Moore and Matt Hayward, who were Chuck Moore was the event lead for the AOS GT. Matt Hayward was his right-hand man and did all the heavy lifting, I'm sure, because, you know, Chuck, he's out there lifting weights while other people are, you know, doing the real work. Just one of those things where I wish Chuck had a blog where he could tell us about his life or something.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah,
it'd be useful. You should look into that.
Yeah.
I hear it works out really well for Tyler Mingle.
Yeah, I think it does. We are so dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, those two guys did amazing job putting that GT together. Most of the people that played in the doubles event said it was probably one of the best events they'd been to.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, it was just great. The atmosphere was fun. And, you know, those of us that were playing the narrative, we were in the same hall, just separated by a row of tables. And you could look over there and it looked like just a fun time was being had by all. So big kudos to Chuck and Matt for putting together a super great event that everyone liked. And I got the same vibe from the people who were in the AOS GT. Even though they were doing 3 games a day, nobody really seemed to be complaining about it. And everything was going like clockwork. I need to throw a huge shout out to the guys from Best Coast Pairings, BCP, because they were right there for both events, the 40K events, the AOS events. Gareth was there. Casey was there, making sure everything went as smoothly as possible. And Gareth was also a judge for the AOS GT. So he threw on a yellow jacket and said, yeah, I'm also here to judge, not just to, you know, help run my app. He threw out his expertise in other ways as well. So mad kudos to those guys.
Nice.
So, yeah, and they were doing the same thing up in the 40K area. They were not only helping run the BCP portion of it, and you'll hear in my interview with Casey Dunn about what running that event looked like from the BCP apps point of view. And it's an eye opener what they had to go through to make that thing work. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
So yeah, it's really interesting. So yeah, they just, those guys put together a superlative event for everyone involved. I can't say enough good things about Nova. The best thing though was every penny that was made at Nova. Once all the expenses are paid and the hotel has been paid off and, the electric bill is finally paid off, every penny goes to charity.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no one is making a penny off of this. No matter what happens, all that money is going to a good cause, a really good cause. So it makes you, happy to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people like that. Knowing that this isn't just going into somebody's pocket and the price isn't $25 because, Mike Brandt wanted to make a couple extra bucks this year.
All right.
So, yeah, it's really cool. And the other thing, too, is Nova Open is run by a board of directors. And it's run by a board, and they have committees, and they have an organizational structure. And it really shows. That event was as smooth as clockwork from a player's point of view. I don't know what it was like from the organizer's point of view, from Mike Brandt's 20,000 foot level, I don't know. But from my point of view, I walked up to the registration desk. I said who I was. They handed me everything that I'd signed up for, everything I needed, a book, a pamphlet that showed me everywhere I needed to go and be. And I mean, it was just like, wow, this is smooth.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the other ones aren't, but I mean, it's just everything ran so smooth. Seminars were on time. Everything was on time. Yeah, it's a great event to go to. I highly recommend it. I'm looking forward to doing the trifecta next year. I really want to do LVO, Adepticon, and Nova. So, I mean, I really want to do Adepticon after hearing what you talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to make it to Nova, but we'll see.
There's great folks there, and just, the GW guys were there, and of course they're harried all the time at a convention because they're so busy, but they're still real engaging. They're great to talk to. And
yeah,
of course, all the people that you hear about and all the people, I really want to send a shout out to all the people that caught up with me and said, hey man, love your show. Or just, hey man, I listen all the time. I really appreciate that. You have no idea what it means to us to get those little strokes now and then, because this really is work.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of work that goes into this. What I'm going to do now is, and you're probably going to get sick of my voice and you don't hear enough of Elric, so we'll let Elric carry the next show.
I know there's plenty of listeners out there who'll be more than happy to hear more Bill and less me.
I don't think so.
So this is your episode.
Yeah. So we're going to kick into some interviews that I did while I was on site. I brought my new recorder and my microphones so that I could do a reasonably professional job. So I do apologize. Some of the interviews do have some crowd background noise that I wasn't able to completely get rid of, but most of them are pretty clean. I will introduce each interview as they come up and talk about who that person is and why they were interviewed and all that stuff as I bring them in. So without further ado, we'll move on to that and we'll sign off for 53, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with our coverage of
Slobberknocker.
Oh, yes.
Which we might be recording either at Slobberknocker or immediately after.
Immediately after, yeah.
So,
wow.
See how that goes.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm here with Joe from Firmer Terra, and he is the maker of some pretty amazing gaming tables for people who are space challenged. So, Joe, you want to tell us a little bit about your stuff?
Well, William, thank you for having me on. We are a small company out of Matthews, North Carolina. We're gamers above everything before we're table makers, and we ran into an issue where we couldn't play at our local store anymore because they moved. So the guys got together and realized that nobody actually had a large enough place to put down a 4x6 mat. So we tried all the conventional stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it worked, but it wasn't approved by the spouses. Because,
never is.
Plywood on the dining room table or whatnot is just apparently an eyesore. And we decided to make something that would work for everybody. So it took us about a year or so, and we started developing it. And in the end, we came up with a product launch called the Alpha Game Table.
It's a pretty amazing table because from looking at it, I mean, you have one set up here on the floor, and it's a 4x6 gaming table, and then it folds up to what, 2 by...
It's about 18 inches by 4 feet and a little bit under 6 inches in depth. It's got its own carry handles, so it becomes a guitar case, essentially.
Right. So you can pretty much stow that thing wherever you need to and not worry about it.
That's the entire idea. 24 square feet of real estate is pretty luxurious for anybody in their home.
Yeah.
Unless you have a dedicated room, it's difficult to do that. So the idea is it's out of the way, it's out of sight when you're not playing, and it's right there, conveniently set up. It takes about between 60 and 90 seconds to set one up, flip it over with a friend, and now you've got your real estate. So set up your map, put down your miniatures, and go have fun.
You're playing within minutes. Now, one question I had, and I literally don't know, is what's the table height for that thing? I know a couple of people in my club have back issues, and they don't like leaning over some of the low tables that our gaming store has. They're just the regular old cheesy cafeteria tables, and they hate those things.
So we created it with the average height of a dining room table in the country. So it's 30 inches.
Oh, cool.
I had plenty of people come up to me and say the same exact thing you just said. Look, my back's not what it used to be. I had an accident. It hurts. I sit on a chair when it's not my turn, but not everybody plays turn-based games.
Yeah.
So 3 months ago, we introduced extenders to them. So all of our tables now come with optional extenders, which you put between the two pieces of the leg, and that gives you another 4.5 inches of perch. Makes it a higher table.
Yeah, that's gonna work pretty well.
That way, we're happy with customers who have kids that don't have to stretch upwards, and we're also keeping the guys that are not wanting to lean over too much. I'm 6'3", and I'm actually happy with the original height, but my back hasn't started cracking yet, so I can't tell you where I'll be in 5 years.
I hear you. Believe me, I used to just not even worry about this stuff, but now I've noticed lately that some of those really low tables are just terrible. So having a nice high table like that is awesome. So is there anything else you want to tell us about before I let you go and get back to
the philosophy of the table is essentially it shouldn't cost you more than your army. It should be able to move anywhere your army can move, and it shouldn't take you more time to assemble or disassemble than, let's say, your army. I think we've done a pretty good job of that. So, there's nothing special about it except for the fact that it is stable real estate when you need it. It's weather resistant, so now you get to go and play outside if the weather permits. Go have a barbecue or play in a pool and then roll your dice as well. But essentially, if we're out of sight and out of mind, and you see somebody judging just by the legs underneath that table that they're running one of our tables, I think that's a success.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of it is for you to enjoy your hobby as unintrusively as possible and not get yelled at scratching the dining room table.
Right. I hear that. And, it should probably make mention of the fact that it's not just for wargaming. We're talking D&D tables, board game night, the whole 9 yards. And it does have 6 legs. So anybody that's thinking it's going to just have a 4-leg table and be real weak in the middle, it's not, is it?
It's surprisingly resilient. I tell everybody the pound test strength is about 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. It's over that, but, we're not going to give you any numbers because somebody's going to try to use it to paint their ceiling or whatnot. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
But it is, keep in mind, it's a 30-pound object. So we put a lot of engineering into it to make sure that it's first and foremost resilient against any kind of bumps and then any kind of pushes. So far, I haven't had anybody write me back and complain that they had a mishap. I mean, if you use it with common sense, like you would treat it, just the rest of your game, then you will not have any issues with this thing.
Awesome. It's a really interesting product. I just love the look of it. I'm still debating, but I think I'll probably pick one up before I leave here.
Very good.
So, yeah, it's might make some of the wife aggro go away.
This 50% of that was the fact that we ended up coming up with this thing just to have the wives yell at us. We're on firmerterra.com.
Okay.
If you're debating or if you're not sure or if the website isn't selling you on it, jump on our Facebook page and don't ask me. Ask all the customers there. Most of the people that are our friends on Facebook are also our customers on Facebook. Put out a blurb and ask an honest question. I want people that use it to give you their opinion, not myself. My job is to sell you something.
Right.
I'm trying to do it as honestly as possible, but I'm still the guy that's trying to sell you something. So in the meantime, if you have any questions, just get on our website and launch away.
Okay, great. Well, I thank you, Joe. I really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the convention. Enjoy it.
Definitely will. Thank you for the time.
Stormcast are cool.
So I'm sitting here now with Matt Tucker, who is one of the event organizers and tournament organizers for the narrative event, the Age of Sigmar narrative event here at Nova. And he also ran last night's Siege campaign, which was amazing. But Matt, you want to introduce yourself and tell us about how you got involved in doing all this stuff?
Hi, yeah, thanks, Bill. So essentially, I came to the narrative 2 years ago, or this will be the third year, but a couple years ago I came to the narrative, and it was myself and my wife and one other guy, and a couple other people came in and out, but we essentially built sort of a storyline. And then I came last year, and there were a lot more people, and poor Aaron was all stressed out. I mean, he's a great guy, but he had a lot to do.
Yeah, he was running everything last year.
Absolutely. So this year I said, you know what, let me go ahead and help you out. And, a couple other guys were here, Brian and a couple other ones. And so that's pretty much where we were at. And he said, hey, what do you want to run? And I said, well, there are some things that we do in 40K that we really don't do in Age of Sigmar. One of which is something sort of like Zone Mortalis, very close quarters.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to build a map or just a terrain table that was very close. And that was the death table that you see all the way at the end.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I want to do a siege because I love Apocalypse in 40K. Love it. And I said, we have to do a siege. One of my all-time best memories from when I was a kid, I was 16 years old. I went to Games Day in Baltimore, and they had a huge siege. And I said, you know what? I need to do that.
Nice.
I had been to Adepticon a little bit earlier than this, and we were playing a 40K Apocalypse battle with Orcs versus Imperium, and it ran very well, very smoothly. So I took kind of a little bit of what they did, and I said, okay, well, 1,500 points seems to be a very good, amount of points to get everything done in about a half hour's turn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I started tweaking it and trying to see what we could do with it to make it, sort of fit Age of Sigmar a little better. And then what I did was I playtested it 5 times.
Nice.
And so the first 2 times that we playtested it, the attackers knocked down the walls in the first turn. We were like,
that's not going to work.
We were like, oh no. Yeah. Right. So then after that, I was like, okay, well, we need to have some sort of, these walls are supposed to be magical. Anyway, let's try to have some sort of way to bring the walls back. So that's where you get last night where the guys were knocking down walls and the defenders were bringing them back up again, but only like 20 wounds or so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was a nice dichotomy of the defenders having to choose, we really need the walls up here because there's a critical breach over here. But Nurgle was knocking down those walls again. You were awesome. Let me tell you, you have some really nicely painted stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have to say, last night's, I have to call it an apocalyptic siege, was probably the best run, large-scale, apocalypse event I've ever seen in my life. Of everyone I've ever been to, that was by far the best. The way you had control of it, calling the times, handling the rounds, and then, one of the things that got, and we talked about this just a second ago, one of the things that got me was during that first round, I knocked down a wall section, and then the defenders were able to bring it right back. I'm like, well, this is going to get boring fast. And then you launched all the other spicy things that you had into it, and it just kept it so cool with all the players changing and moving and the forces going back and forth. I think it was really masterfully done. I really want to give you props for that. How did you come up with the ideas of moving the players around and actually adding spice to each turn so that no 2 turns were the same, when in reality it was just really a smackdown drag out over a wall section?
Well, let me tell you, when we were doing our playtest, it was only 5v5 in our playtest.
Yeah.
And about the second playtest in, one guy was all the way at the end, and he said, I have no one to shoot. I have no one to assault. All I'm doing is assaulting walls. And I said, you know what? Roll a d6. And so he rolled a d6. He rolled a 4. And I was like, all right, pick up 4 units, deep strike them. So everything was super close. It was really close. So I said, okay, 4 inches instead of 9.
Yeah.
You can go 4 inches away from the enemy instead of 9. So he immediately would attack, and he wiped out maybe, I think, 2 units of something or others. Usually like a monster and maybe 1 other unit, like a battle line unit. And then, of course, we were letting players bring back 1 unit per turn. So that way, if your Archaeon is on the table first turn and it gets just knocked off the table, you bring that back on. You want to play with Archaeon, right?
Exactly. In a game like that, you want to play with your cool toys.
So
Right. So the people who were having stuff knocked off didn't quite mind it as much because they were like, oh, well, now I can bring it on over here and counterattack and earn more points for my side. So it was really, it was all about kill points, because if you think about it in a siege, it's, will the attackers eventually give up because they've taken more losses, or will the defenders eventually give in because, they just don't have any more people to fight anymore?
Yeah.
And so I was really surprised at how many how many defenders switched sides when it seemed like the defenders were going to lose. People would come to me and they would say, I don't know. I really don't want to be on the defense now because I think we're going to lose. Just like in sort of a real world, battle in, I'd say, ancient times.
Yeah.
They would, you would just literally turn around and mercenaries would turn around and start beating up on whomever they thought. They do not want to be on the losing side.
Well, and what was great is it fit totally with the overall narrative where, we're all fighting for our guilds, but there's a mercenary streak in every one of us.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people that just did not want to be on that losing side, so they all swapped, right? And at the end, I think we maybe had 4 defenders and 15 attackers.
Yeah, so at the end, we counted up all the points, and I made all the attackers raise their hand. I was like, who's an attacker? Yeah.
And I said, you guys need to go home in shame because you lost the defenders. And let me tell you, those defenders, those last few, they just
they loved
joy.
every minute of it. Oh, my God.
That was great.
That was probably one of the best 3 hours of gaming I've had in 10 years, because that was just so much fun. Mad props to you for putting that all together and literally for getting together with Brian and getting 24 feet of wall on Age of Sigmar tables. That was an amazing triumph. You should really stick a feather in your hat for that one.
Well, thank you. I mean, because Brian, we were talking about it, and I was like, well, I think I should buy like 3 of those corn fortresses for $500. And Brian goes, well, I have this, this 24 feet of wall that we can use. And I was like, oh, really?
Yeah.
So, thank you so much to Brian for that.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, that's a huge expense to not have to worry about, man.
Yeah. I think definitely when we're going to do it next year, because I love doing it. I'd love to start it off earlier and get a full, maybe even make it a 5-hour thing and have 5 rounds, because we were doing a half hour for each side.
Right.
And 25 minutes, I look over and everybody's pretty much diced down. Most people were, doing some bravery tests or something, but nobody was in their movement phase. Right.
Yeah. No, that 30 minutes was working just about right with the 1,500 points. And, you also had the rule where only monsters could knock down the wall. So it wasn't just, I got to move, 200 plague bearers up to try to knock down this wall section. No, they were great for following through the holes. But yeah, that was really super well done. So, enough of the narrative. What are your thoughts about the rest of Nova? I know you've been doing classes today. Have you been getting a kick out of those?
Oh, yeah, because we've been with Duncan, and he's been just a blast. Let me tell you, that guy is so personable. I can definitely see, and he always says, my silly job that I have, and I can't believe they let me do this, but I can definitely believe that they let him do it because he's so good at it. Everybody in the room just is happy and smiling, and we all walk out with a beautifully painted miniature. Like today, we just got finished painting white on Eldar.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
White on Eldar, and nobody cried.
Well, the class I did with him Thursday was painting black, and, kind of a different way of painting black, which was really great. And, same thing. Everybody walks out of there going, that's really cool. He's a hell of a guy.
He was. He really is.
Yep. So are you planning to expand your role with the narrative stuff next year? Or are you just going to, run the events, side events like this? Or are you going to jump more into running, more with Brian and Aaron? What are your plans?
I think that what we'll definitely do is we will try to give each other breaks by having one person be lead on one specific type of event, and then everybody else just kind of does whatever that person says.
Yeah.
So that way we don't all have to be in the spotlight. I don't know if you noticed, my voice is a little bit out of whack from last night in one event.
You were yelling.
Yeah. So I can imagine Brian was probably, pretty tired after the first couple. And,
yeah.
And we were like, okay, let's go ahead and switch it up so that way. So like Brian was getting people coin, and Aaron was doing skyship upgrades, and I was bellowing at the top of my voice so that everybody could hear me.
Yeah, because it was a loud hall.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I don't mind.
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, like I said, I really wanted to get you on and interview you because, like I said, that was the most fun I've had in a long time. That was a great Apocalypse type. And, Apocalypse games, usually a lot of times they bog down. And that one never did. You were always involved, always doing something. It was just so much fun.
Well, thank you. I mean, because a lot of times it's when you have an Apocalypse game and you're the organizer of one, you have to go around and to where you say, you see the congestion points where 4 people are waiting for one person to roll. You have to say, okay, is what you're going to do depending on what he's rolling? No? Okay, roll it. I'm watching.
Yeah.
And if somebody goes to the bathroom, I'm like, okay, well, if you go to the bathroom, no problem, but somebody might have to make your saves for you just because, I tell people don't be stressed, but also, try to do it a little quick.
Well, yeah, you got 30 minutes for a turn. And I mean, that's a really good, like I said, it's a good time for 1,500 points, but you also, you got to be involved. You got to be moving during that 30 minutes. You can't be taking breaks.
Heck yeah. And I don't just like say, oh, well, 2 minutes to go. Normally I give people like a 15-minute, hey guys, 15 minutes, you should probably be shooting now, or, maybe start close combat if you're Nurgle. But one of the best things about those walls coming down and going back up was, and I love that we did it this way, we made it so that the attackers were still in close combat against the walls when they came back up. So your Great Unclean Ones could just knock them down during their turn if you got lucky.
Yeah. I did. It was funny. I knocked that section of wall down. They built it back up, and then I knocked 2 down, and they were like, "Oh, this is not good."
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Emma right on my left flank, and our plan was just we're going to concentrate our beasts on this section and knock it down until they can't put it up again.
Yeah, and I think you guys, out of those, I think we had about 20 actual sections of wall, and you guys knocked down 15.
Yeah.
And they built back up 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's wow.
You were in there.
I couldn't believe we didn't win that one. I just, as an attacker, I feel so. Why didn't we win?
Well, I can actually tell you why, because I was on the sides. Those sides folded so easily because the defense was pretty much focused in the middle.
Yeah.
So when the defenders on the sides stopped attacking, they stopped giving points to your attacking force, even though I had them deep striking into the center. So I would have them say, okay, well, pick up D6 units and do what you can. And they would do what they could. But if they weren't on the sides, if everything's concentrated in the middle, those defenders are going to be like, okay, well, I'll pick that off and that off. And that off.
Those lucky defensive. Anyway. So before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to cover? You want to tell us about anything you got going on? You want to hawk or?
Well, I just wanted to say we have the luckiest FLGS ever. It's called High Tide Games, and it's down in Southern Maryland. So if you're in Southern Maryland, please take a look at it. We usually have we do Monday night Warhammer and 40K. We usually have about 15 or 20 people come down.
Nice.
A big size crowd for Southern Maryland. And let me tell you, I listen to your show a lot, and I love it. Love it while I'm painting, just while I'm just sitting there watching the kids or what have you.
Sweet. Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. And I truly appreciate, on behalf of all the players in the narrative, I know all of us are having a grand time, and I really appreciate all the work that you guys put into putting on a really great show for everybody. I haven't heard anybody grouse about anything other than bad dice and losing when they thought they should have won. So that's a pretty good mark for you. Yeah. Yep. So thank you, Matt, and I'll let you get back. I know you got another class to go to, so I really appreciate you taking your time, and thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's greatly appreciated.
No problem. Take care.
Stormcast are cool.
So now I'm here at the Fat Matt Table War booth with Doug Johnson, the CEO of Table War, and I'm talking about the amazing Macromat product that you have put out. I bought it right when it first came out and just absolutely love it. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what it is?
Sure. Thanks for having me on, by the way. It's a photo backdrop for miniatures or hobby crafting. It comes with a stand. The full set is a stand and 3 backdrops. And the 3 backdrops are a warm backdrop, and then we have a cool backdrop, and then we've got the gradient backdrop. So what you can visualize in it, you can just think of like the Sears backdrop for
Yeah.
portfolio
Catalog shots,
catalog
yeah.
shots and stuff like that. So it's got that blurry background to where your phone, if you're using a smartphone, won't focus in on that. They're going to focus in on the subject that you want. So instead of having like those pictures on the web where you see like all the paint pots or the computer or the desktop
The
or
very
the
busy
paintbrush,
background,
the very
yeah.
busy background where your smartphone or any auto-focusing camera will potentially get on those and focus on those instead of your subject you want. So it's a great backdrop for any subject that you're trying to define as your primary subject.
Yeah, so basically, in a nutshell, it will turn up anyone's photography skills to the next level. And like I said, I bought one when they first came out, and I've been just amazed at how cool they are. The telescoping rod, so you can fit just about any size miniature on the mat itself. So really awesome product. You want to tell us about anything else you guys
Well,
make?
let me just mention also, it comes with the extra rod, so you can either do it, because the mats that come with the box set are 30 by 15. So they also fit in, if you have a photo light box already, the backdrops will fit inside there as well. But you can also put the extra extender on it and do a horizontal, or you can do the mats either horizontally or vertically, which is really nice. And then we have the warm and cool, so if your subject has a lot of blues, has a lot of cool colors in it, you put the warm one behind it so you have that contrasting color, so your image pops.
Yep.
We also have, for our other products, we have the new Kill Team mats that are coming out. Those are the double-sided mats. We're doing pre-orders right now, and we expect them to be in stock and being shipped out to our customers mid-October. And again, the fat mats from Table War are the only mats that are water-treated, so water-resistant treated. So we do that, and they all come with the mat bag and tag as well.
Yeah, I'm staring at the Kill Team mat right now, and that thing is just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
That is really great art, and of course, it's a fat mat, so it's going to be durable, and it doesn't roll up on the sides and what have you. So I love your product, really do.
Thank you. Thank you.
No.
Yeah, we're excited about those, and I'm loving the game too myself, so it's super fun.
Yeah, it's a great game. So is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Just check out tablewar.com for all of our products. We've got our cases, our mats, the Geo mats for Dungeons and Dragons and role playing as well. That's a new product as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we've
those
got
are awesome.
videos up there. You can we're going to start doing some giveaways too. So if you like us on Facebook or our Instagram, that'll give you the notification when we're posting up. We're going to start doing some random drawings through Instagram and
nice.
Facebook as well. So
Very nice.
All of our products we'll cycle through all of them for giveaways. So keep an eye out.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Doug. I really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate the interview. Thank you so much.
No problem. No
All right,
problem.
Take care.
Stormcast are cool.
So now for the interview that I am most looking forward to at Nova Open this year, I have Brian Orban with me. And Brian is one of the TOs who is running the Age of Sigmar narrative event here at Nova that I'm taking part in. And before I let him talk, I am going to say that this is the most fun I've had over 4 days, since I don't know when. It has been amazing, and mad props to you guys for all the work you've put in. So anyway, Brian Orban, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm going to start speaking immediately because there's a certain inflection that a voice has when it's coming through, like the biggest smile you can muster. And I want to make sure you can capture that. Yeah, my name is Brian Orban. I am one of the organizers for the grand narrative for Age of Sigmar at the Nova Open. We are 3 days out of 4 into our event, and we are 7 out of 9 games in.
Yep.
So we are already in that mode where we start patting ourselves on the back.
Should be.
We are not in the mode where we start thinking about next year because we still have a few things to work out. But this has been really, really rewarding. This has been fun. This has been fun for all of our participants. I can see that in their eyes. Oh. This has been a blast for us. I'm proud to call myself a narrative event organizer, and I have never been so proud to say that as we went through this sizable narrative event that is holding its own in the chaos of an event like Nova Open.
Yeah, and it is truly. This is an amazing event overall with everything here. And I have to say, and I'm going to harp on a few things here. We're going to put some pictures up on the Facebook page, and you've probably seen them already if you're paying attention to the Age of Sigmar stuff. But you built 4 ships for the Thursday night event, or Wednesday night event. Was it Wednesday night?
No, it was starting Thursday.
Okay, yeah. For the Thursday night, what was it called? The Ships of Renown?
We've always had ships of renown, but these were the epic ships of renown.
Okay, the epic ship. And they are truly epic. I mean, there is a model of the Heldenhammer, the old Dreadfleet Heldenhammer, that is probably 4 feet long and how many high?
I think it's 3 feet long, 3 feet high. It would be a cube if it was like you were to map out the cannon shots.
Right.
But a lot of that is sails.
Sure.
Yeah. One thing I've learned about myself as I've been running narrative events is that the most rewarding thing that I can do is do it my way.
Nice.
So like that doesn't make me a great collaborator. What it does allow me to do is follow through on a vision in which the only real barrier is myself, the work that I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
So this took a lot of work, but it's something that I was thinking about at the end of Nova last year.
Yeah.
And so it's been something I've been working on since we first had our first chat, like the week after Nova.
Wow.
Age of Sigmar is this really crazy place. Like the Mortal Realms are this expression of fantasy in which someone explicitly says, like, no, we can never say no to ideas. Maybe because we have to distance ourselves from Tolkien as much as we can.
Yeah.
But we're just going to constantly redefine fantasy. But this isn't the first time that Warhammer has done this. And
no.
The first time I saw it when I was a kid reading White Dwarf was Man of War.
Yeah.
And Man of War was crazy.
Oh my God, that was such a fun game.
Yeah, well, I would look at that and say, like, I don't know if this fits. But in Age of Sigmar, you'll never say that.
Right.
When the Nova narrative 2 years ago had wanted to establish its identity, they turned to the nautical.
Right.
We established. I said we, but I wasn't part of the crew at the time. They established this idea of a coastal city in Ulgu with their own shadows, with lots of canals and lots of play space that was in or around the water. And so Nova scenery team, led by Bob Litkins, built these incredible set of ships. They're incredible because there's 16 of them, and they're incredible that they were built so fast and they look so professional. But they're very conventional ships.
Yes.
And they don't really embody everything the Age of Sigmar is, because at the very least, like Age of Sigmar is like, oh, that's a conventional ship, but at least it's flying.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing. The thing about airship combat is that it only kind of works. Like, we want to do it.
Right.
But when I played in the narrative last year, I saw that we had great rules for getting out of the ships and not like instantly saying like, well, those models are gone.
Yeah.
You would go in the water, and like if you thought that your models would be competent, they would probably not just drown immediately.
Yeah.
So we just used the deadly terrain rule, like if you ran or charged, like if you weren't paying attention to keeping yourself alive,
right,
then you'd be okay. And I just immediately thought like, oh, well, I love airships, but this is where it's at. This is functional. I told Aaron Bastian as we were cleaning up on Sunday last year at Nova, water works so well, but how do we AOSify it? The answer is Dreadfleet and Man of War and doing that stuff. And he kind of said, yeah, that's a great idea, kid. So my mission during my first 3 months on the team was to prove to him and the rest of the team like that, I was actually going to follow through on this.
Nice.
And so that's why I never said no. We got 4 giant ships for 4 Grand Alliances. 2 of them are drawn directly from Dreadfleet. 2 of them are kind of like, I want to do other things for Man of War, but they're kind of like, so I can say they're compromised visions, but I think they're really cool ideas.
All of them are incredibly well realized. I haven't seen anyone yet that has walked past that table and gone, oh, yeah, those are cool. No, they've just been like, what the hell is that? And in fact, I I dragged from the Warhammer community team over to the tables and said, have you seen these? And he's like, oh my God, who did that? Of course, he said it with a British accent, but yeah, I mean, just everybody's been wowed by it. So,
well, that's really gratifying to hear. And like, thank you for spreading the word. Like it spreads like realization as to what we're doing on the narrative scene.
Yeah.
Like what we're doing on the American narrative scene.
Yeah.
What we were doing at Nova and our ability to hobby. It's one of the things that we do at conventions is that we display the work of the past year in ways that, and pieces of work that really wouldn't be appropriate in other venues.
Right.
They're going to work at an Adepticon or an LVO or a Nova.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that makes this time together as a community special. And I want to do everything I could to let Age of Sigmar participate in that.
Oh yeah.
Because like 40K is always going to have like an entire Adeptus Mechanicus display with like a full Titan on board. Like,
yes.
Yeah, they should absolutely do that. That's great. So we as an Age of Sigmar community need to find that identity. So
right.
So the ships was my stab at it in the way that maybe, I mean, I want to say like, oh, the Raw Crew is going to do like Realm Beasts, but they did Realm Beasts and they have something else in their pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And we're about to see it in like 2 months.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait.
I know. Just waiting for them for that reveal is, oh man, I can't, because they top themselves every year.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I don't know how you're going to top what you did this year, because I'm going to take it away.
Ships.
Yeah, more ships. I take it away from the ships a little bit. They are amazing. They are wow. But you're also running the event. I mean, you're pretty much the day-to-day TO for this narrative event. And it has been truly amazing to see a group of players like this completely engaged, completely wrapped up in the story, stabbing each other in the back, stabbing each other in the face. I'd like to say that I'm on the alliance that has had the least of that, but hey.
You're their rock.
Well, no, you know what? Luke is the rock. I'm just trying to help rock. I'm like the pebble that, tries.
So we've got a lot of returning players, and so that's always been if there's one defining principle behind the Nova narrative, it's the idea that players are performing their narrative off the table as much as on the table. And so we've always had this structure of creating our own organizations, our guilds, that doesn't exist with really any relation to the grand alliances in the game.
Right.
Because that's a fluid structure, that gives the players so many points of interaction. And it is absolutely paying off. And it's because of them. It's because people are coming in from past years, like knowing that this is a lever that they can pull.
Right.
And then when they start to play like that in front of other people, then new players are, as soon as they see that they can do this, they're champing at the bit to play along. And so it just kind of feeds off each other. And so if we get it rolling on Thursday, and then by Friday, everyone's aware that this is how we do it. And as we close Saturday, it's just this tumultuous churn of like diplomacy as well as movement on the battlefield. And that's great.
I was just sitting there and I was wrapping up my game with Slanesh and looking over at the other table, and Emma's going, you need to bring your guys over here. So loading them all up on the transport and going, okay, where can I go to be the most help? And jumping into another game to reinforce my side. You don't ever think of that in competitive AOS, where one table would have an effect on any other table. Whereas in this one, we were just jumping where we needed to be, and it's crazy.
Like someday somebody's going to come down and make like, we're gonna say like, I've had enough of these podcasts where we say like, well, what is narrative? And they're gonna say like, well, we clearly know what narrative is. Mm-hmm. It's when you jump between tables and attack the other guy. Like,
exactly.
There's 2 or 3 other attributes, but like we said, all right, things that really like terrain that goes really really high, so you couldn't possibly do that. That's one of the defining elements of narrative play. And going to attack the other table And also like telling a story, I guess. Like that's cool too.
Yeah.
but
Well, my beleaguered allies needed my help. They called, and I
Right.
went.
why is that an essential element? It's because at a narrative event, we all intertwine our stories.
Yes.
And we all weave something that goes throughout the hall.
And the story is more important than the mechanic. You know, it's I don't need to know the exact method by which I got over there. I don't really care what it is in game terms, but I'm here now, and I now have an ability to affect another game, hopefully in a positive way, which I managed to flub. But
You had limited agency because I was about to call dice down.
I know it was a tough ask. If I'd have been there a half hour earlier, but it took me a long time to die. So, damn Slanesh.
This is what you got to do. You've got to commit to leaving your own game and going to the other game before your game.
So this year in the narrative event, there was 2 sort of add-ons to your army, and just so everybody knows, the format was you bring a 1,500 point list, and then from that you generate a 1,000 point list for Saturday. The 1,500 point list you played with on Friday, and then by Sunday you're down to a 500 point list because you are taking losses over time. Your forces are eroding, but you also have an airship and your personal hero. And of course, we're working for gold and we're working for acclaim. We're using the gold to upgrade our airships and all. Where did you guys come up with all of the mechanics for? Because I'm sitting here looking at how you're doing this, and it hits me at how brilliant it is. You printed me out a sheet with my ship on it, and it has all these open squares. And you guys are, as I'm buying upgrades, you're cutting these things out of sticky paper, label paper. And as I buy the upgrades, I'm just sticking them onto my ship sheet so I can see what I'm doing. Now, with my newly upgraded boat, where did you guys come up with all these ideas?
So I know we're not the first people to put stickers on sheets. I'm pretty sure Steve Wren does that at Warhammer Achievements.
Okay, yeah.
But we. So I want to talk about the champions first.
Okay.
Because a guy on our team Matt Hayward.
Yes.
That you've even seen a lot of because he has he did so much work on our project for the narrative, but he spent the entire weekend being Chuck Moore's number 2,
right?
And the GT wouldn't
He's
be without him.
Working the GT, yeah.
But he took on this project of researching the entire last 2 years of narrative play and looking at every time that someone's implemented the idea of bring a custom hero. Because Steve Herner does it, Raw does it,
yeah.
And we did it the last 2 years of the Nova narrative. And like all these, like nothing's happening in a vacuum. We're all feeding off each other. I think some of this may have come from the 40K narrative here at Nova. Every time it's implemented, it's a little different, and every time it's implemented, it has a little different effect on the army. Like sometimes it's this dominating force. There's the champion, and then there's the rest of the army, and sometimes the army doesn't seem to matter because the champion's so good.
Yeah,
and sometimes the champion is irrelevant, and it's so easy to find like irrelevancy because we don't often implement these things with the army keywords, because then you're adding this new unit in with complete synthesis in with the rest of the army, and you try to look at like the design consequences of that, and you just like throw the book down, like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't handle this level of complexity. So Matt found such a good balance, and he tapped into this wellspun of creativity within himself, and he came up with like 4 classes and then 4 more, and then he just kept adding them. And to the point where Aaron said to me, like, we're just going to have like 1 player per class. This isn't going to be a class system. This is going to be like, but I think we've got throughout the classes, we've got a good mix of different levels of complexity too. Like we've got and the names are so great that he came up with. We got a master of the fray, which is like, instead of just saying fighter, who is really simple to play and also really challenging to play because our system has gives you experience that you're going to track, but it tracks. So we call it a claim. And so it does so by having conditions that as soon as you fulfill them, then you get another checkbox at the bottom of your sheet. And then when you get to a certain level, that unlocks an ability. So that's like all your bookkeeping is right there. Right. I love that.
Yes.
So that like, oh, I just I just hit with more than half of my attacks, so I got to get one more check, and oh, look at that, I'm now at 6. That means my next combat run I'm going to be that much better, and it just implemented. That's really working well. So the Sky Vessels was my pet project. We have a lot of BattleTech heads on our team.
Nice.
And so what we wanted to do was make something that we could build. We could give the players like agency to build themselves, to go through different upgrade trees. So first of all, we had the idea of everyone would build an airship.
Right.
I think I had just come off messing around with a Caradron Overlords army.
Oh.
And so, I was motivated to let's make some airships that work.
Yeah.
and so really the idea is giving everyone the ability to be Caradron Overlords was really compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was something new for them to interact with on the battlefield. Like even Caradron Overlords need a new levels of interaction because they would actually have firepower.
Yeah.
But
a skyship that worked.
Yeah. But also it let everyone ask the question, what does it mean for my army to have an airship?
Yeah.
How would I implement that? I'm a Stormcast. What is it's we now know the Stormcasts have war machines.
Right.
We now Josh Reynolds tells us what a Stormcast elevator looks like in Soul Wars.
Yes.
Take that down to what their craft would look like. I get to come up with that.
Yeah.
And so that's asking a lot for players, because what we're asking them to say is you're going to come to this thing and we want you to do the thing that any Warhammer player does, which is provide their opponent with a good looking army.
Yeah.
But also you're going to come with something that you're never going to use again.
Yeah.
You can't go back home and go to your Tuesday night game and say and my Sylvaneth, I have a boat.
Yeah. Here's my airship.
Yeah.
What?
That's why we had to build this terrain. That's why we had to make these rules, is because we were saying we think this is worth committing to.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is worth everybody going out and making something original and one-off. We're going to make it worth your while. This is our proof of how we're making it worth your while. So meet us on this level, and it's going to be awesome. And everybody did it.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah,
some of the ships out there are just crazy.
Yeah.
Good.
I would. There was a lot of discussion. We set up a Facebook group to help people interact. There's a lot of discussion of I don't know what this means for my faction, and I would say, well, here's some ideas, but you know what? It's a big ask. Play at the level you'd like to play. If you would like to have a Stormcast army in which your air vessel is a Star Drake, and he picks up Liberators in his claws and he takes them where he needs to go.
Sure.
That's cool with me. Whatever. But whatever you want to do,
it meets the requirements. Yeah.
Nobody took that easy way out.
No.
Everybody's just what crazy idea can I do? If I had to take one comment about over the narrative, everybody went big. Everybody said, well, if I'm going to transport it, fit so they have to be visible, right? I have to actually put the models on there, right? No, that's too big. I said 120 by 90 millimeter base.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because once you get stuff on the battlefield, it looks great.
Yes.
And that is, and it was never going to be mechanically sound anyway.
No.
But as far as the mechanisms, I came up with 6 things that the airships could do.
Right.
They could shoot. They could fight in melee. They could cast. They could transport. They could get places really fast. They could take hits.
Yes.
And then I came up with, basically just took the Caradron Overlords frigate war scroll, and I made just little changes to that. But then once you started to upgrade it, it became something noteworthy.
Oh, yes.
If you take that spellcaster
the mythic.
Sky Vessel, the mythic, and you upgrade it, by the end, it is a Celestial Arcanum plus a Luminarch of Hysh, plus Archon the Black, all rolled together. You're not going to get there until Sunday,
right?
Because you've got to get a lot of gold from different treasure chests you're going to find, and you got to roll well, and you got to find a lot of basically artifacts, and you've got to turn them into me, and you can't use them anymore, and I'm going to melt them down and give you good sky vessel parts. And also we had to think about like how do we implement that? So I designed this thing in Microsoft Word, such because I'm a former tech writer.
Nice.
I'm one of those guys to look at something and say like that's 6.5 spaces in between, and so I took that and designed a war scroll sheet that had a lot of missing puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And then I gave you three more sheets that were all the missing puzzle pieces.
Right.
And that was the catalog. And then people could look through that catalog and pick what they wanted. And then I would cut it out because it's all printed on sticker paper.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was their war scroll. And it's flawless until someone loses their sheet.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Because I'm rooting in the physical reality. But, that's only happened once.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because if you tell people that they just trade something valuable in and all they got was a sticker in response, they're going to assign value to that sticker.
Yes. That whole method of doing the sky vessels is just such a refreshing change, and it's such a great narrative element. The way the campaign is working and the narrative is working, you only have so much control over what's going on in your area and winning and losing and gaining and losing territories for your guilds and all that stuff. But this is stuff that you and you alone can build and make it what you want. And I mean, it has been so much fun. Why, Emma decided that she was going to do nothing but make her vessel be a buff engine. Uh-huh. And it is a buff engine. It is amazing. Wow. I mean, and it really paid out in the siege last night because, being able to re-roll ones to hit when my two great unclean ones are hitting on threes.
So did you have the first wall section destroyed?
Yeah.
Yeah. All my opening shots of that siege are just like an unbroken wall except for one missing gate and two fat boys standing in the gap.
Yep. It was well, Emma and I kind of got together and we decided that we were going to hit just that one section and try to make that a pressure point that they would have to either reinforce or die. And so that first turn, I got just crazy lucky. I hadn't had that kind of luck most of the weekend with the great unclean one and his great sword. And he just whacked that wall down with one shot. Of course, they built it right back up because that was in the rules. And then brought down two sections. And now we're starting to tax their ability. That was just amazing. But yeah, her buff engine was crazy. So, I mean, just the overall feel, were you at all nervous about how all these moving pieces would work? I mean, because you have done a bunch of things. We're playing on a map of your own design with control rules, kind of. I mean, they're reasonably standard, but still you're adjudicating them. Plus you have the champions and the sky vessels. Were you at all nervous that all these moving parts might...
So one thing that I didn't realize about our team in the last 2 months was that we were dedicated to the divide and conquer mentality. Mm-hmm. And we have a big team. We have 7 people on our team. Yeah. I don't know of another narrative team that has that many participants. So I have my head in the rules, but I pretty much just worked on the sky vessels. Yeah. Everything else was like physically building, especially the last 2 months.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Like I had time with my family and other missteps in April and May. So for June and July, I was behind the 8 ball, and I just had to like build all the time.
Power through
and so I stopped thinking about rules, and it would make me really nervous. But I knew that the rest of the team was behind it.
Yeah,
and the rest of the team was thinking about it. So that calmed that anxiety. Was that somebody else has got this? Aaron has got this, or Matt Tucker has got this.
Yeah,
we were talking about that siege. Matt Tucker did something that is, as far as I can tell, unprecedented in the Age of Sigmar narrative community. He extensively play tested something. Yeah. Like nobody does that.
And I talked to him earlier today, and I got a good interview with him in between some of his art classes that he was going to today. Well-deserved break, and it showed that you guys had gone through that set of rules and made sure that it was going to work under stress. Because I told him flat out that was the best apocalypse type game I have played in 10, 15 years.
So on Thursday night we had a battle on the epic ships,
right?
And we kind of just put that together, and it didn't work nearly as well. And we got some we got a lot of pointers for that we were able to apply to the siege the next night, but it just hadn't been road tested the way the siege had.
Right.
And that I cannot speak highly enough to the effort that he has put out into that thing over the past 6 months to get that to work. But there's a lot of other moving parts. Like I was speaking about how like the champions don't have your alliance keyword,
right?
Because that's that can have so many second and third order consequences.
Yes.
Well, the sky vessels do.
Yes.
Because I just don't care. The thing that we do as narrative organizers is that we keep our heads on a swivel.
Yeah.
And we keep our ears to the ground. We walk those tables, and if we see something that isn't working, it's time for the Deus Ex Machina to go in there and change the rules.
Yes.
But until that happens, I want to see something crazy.
Yeah.
And I want to give players the ability to get really excited. I want people to be like rubbing their hands in the weeks coming up to the event and say, oh, I'm going to break this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because I can use that enthusiasm. And I bet that if I have to take it away, if it really is broken, that they're still happy. And so I will take that gamble any day.
Yep, most likely.
Just like make something big and fun, and if it's a problem, we'll fix it.
It is truly a different style of player that's in this event
Well, there you go.
than is in any kind of GT, and I'm not trying to dog on GT players. I mean, at all.
So clearly we didn't plan for the worst.
Right.
I think we planned for a midpoint.
Yeah.
You expect the best, or you hope for the best. You expect that midpoint to show up.
Right.
But there is nothing that lifts our souls more than when the games start and everybody gets it.
Yeah.
And everybody's on that page and there's no problem players. And not only that, people are exceeding our expectations time and time again. Like that's why I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's not that we've avoided the worst possible scenarios. It's the fact that we have so many players that are that are out there, getting it and coming back to us with ideas, like giving us things to say yes to.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's why we do this.
Oh, yeah. The thought and the crafting that went into this is so evident. I haven't seen a hiccup, haven't been involved in one. It's just so refreshing to come and play games where you know what the other person's focus is. I mean, I don't have to know you. I don't have to know everything about you and your army. What I do know is you're here for the exact same reason as me. And the only thing we have to do is compare our airships and look at what we've got and then play a game for the sheer fun of it.
Yeah.
And you guys have taken all of that crazy aspect away. We don't have to worry about that because we are now in the situation that we put ourselves into because we're picking where we fight. Again, I don't have to sit there and go, well, we're playing in this over here and in that over there. It's just we know what we got. We're picking our fights. And, I mean, it's
right.
a blast.
And, why are players picking their fights? Because they think it would be fun to own a city.
Yes.
Or because they think, I'm probably going to need that metal for my infrastructure, which has no mechanism in the game of Warhammer Age of Sigmar.
Exactly.
Right, but that's so the one of the things that we as a narrative community have learned, and the lesson that our particular teams internalized, is that you can screw this up if you put too many systems operating at once.
Oh yeah.
And we've already added lots of systems. We have a champion, and we have a sky vessel, and these are war scrolls that no one's ever played before.
Right.
So that's something new. But the thing that can really screw up a game is you have something riding on a time of war, a realmscape.
Right.
That's all standard part of the game, and it's awesome. But I think that we can agree that it's either the point of your game, like we're playing in Gur, we're all getting monsters out, it's going to be awesome,
right?
Or it's something that's kind of neat, or it's something that the new competitive environment, which I'm all for. But then I don't have a horse in this race. I don't like. It would be nice to have a competitive event that was really crazy. But I'm not Chuck Moore. I'm not actually doing the reps and I don't have anything on the line here. What we've learned is that when too much complexity is riding on the outside of the game, it actually nothing happens because people forget it.
Right.
So we have this map and it's actually doing nothing. You're not getting bonuses, like a few coin here or there. You're not getting bonuses from taking things. because like if we said like now that you're holding the city of Citadel, like you're emboldened and you're +1 to bravery.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great thing to forget.
Yes.
So why even bother with it? Let's all be motivated by things that are in character.
Yes.
That's a hard ask, but I've seen everybody pick up
Yes.
on it, and that makes me so happy.
It is great. It is tremendously gratifying to be in something that is so well run. It shows so much effort on the part of the guys that put it together and is going off incredibly well. I mean, I think everybody's embraced it.
That's really gratifying, really meaningful to hear.
It is a blast. It is over the top. So before we close out, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, because there are people on the team that I haven't mentioned yet.
Okay, please do.
Yeah. So Ben Marshall, he's our head writer for the narrative. Our plot is built around the God Beast Nenixir. I had this awkward moment yesterday where I had to play the God Beast because he was busy playing an army. So that's why I had those tentacles on my arms.
Yep.
But he gave me a death stare. He's like, you are in my garden, and I don't know whether things are going well or not over there, but that is me. You're playing me. So he has crafted this incredible story. It's just amazing. Like, he has grown a commitment to this fiction. It's wonderful. Sean McAfee is our head art judge. He's also our head art producer.
Yeah. He
has done work on some terrain pieces that we still have as we're holding on surprises.
Wow.
They look incredible. We have such a great team, and we wouldn't be here without us all working together, bouncing ideas off each other. It was hugs all around. We finally got into the room together, and I can't wait to move forward with these people.
Yeah, it's great. The whole lot of you deserve just all kinds of praise for this. It's just so well done, so well thought out. Like I said, I haven't had this much fun. And as you well know, I have had to miss a couple of games each day, or a game each day. I've tried to limit it to one to do interviews and what have you. Even with that, I don't feel like I'm that far behind or out or, you know.
So that's another thing that's unproven. I was talking to the guys that were in the 40K narrative, and they did the thing that we did last year. They did it a la carte. So you just show it like, I'm going to play Saturday evening. I'm going to play Friday afternoon. I'm just going to buy what I want.
Right.
When we changed that, we said all in, like 3 days, AOS summer camp, 7 events with 2 more on Thursday, but no one can do that. No one would be expected to do that. People are hopping out for classes all the time, and they're happy to get and it's still working. And that's unproven, but that's what I'm seeing is that people are still locked in. They're coming back to saying like, what did I miss? I'm sorry, to my alliance. Like, so how do I catch up? And like, they're keeping pace. This is a proven model now. We're going to do a short write-up for further narrative events about what it means to be inclusive, what it means to be exclusive. What are the pros and cons of that? I hate to say it, but we found a lot of good in being exclusive and being something for dedicated and not casual. That was a hard choice to make, but I'm really glad we made it now.
Oh yeah. This whole thing is working. And one of the things I'll point out, I missed a game yesterday because I was doing interviews with folks, Aaron being one of them. What was kind of cool about the whole thing is as we earn these gold to buy upgrades and to do other things, the money actually goes to the guild. My guild was able to sit there and say, okay, he missed a game, so he's missed a couple of upgrades. They saved money for me to come in this morning and say, here's what I want to buy.
An unprecedented absence of backstabbing. I'm not sure this is a true anecdote, but I'll go with it for now.
Here's the deal. We are like even though it's not a chaos faction, we are the most chaotic of factions. We've had nobody leave our faction. We've had some people come to us because we're way cool. And we've always helped each other. I mean, we've never stabbed each other yet.
You have a bedrock of Nurgle.
Yes.
In this alliance, and that is what makes this very plausible.
It is,
clearly everybody has the same grandfather here.
Yeah,
that's why you all stick together, because family sticks together.
Because family knows family, I could talk for hours about how cool this thing was, but I am burning up your time. So I think we're ready to close out unless you have something in closing you want to say.
Thanks to everybody that came out to play.
True.
They made the happiest organizing team here at Nova. I don't want to compete with anybody or anything else, but we are smiles all around.
Nice. Well, thank you, Aaron, for taking the time. I just called you Aaron.
Oh, he's gonna be so happy about that. People have been calling him Brian all weekend, and now somebody called me Aaron.
I'm so dead. I have to leave that in now. I am so sorry. God, I am so wasted. So thank you, Brian, for taking the time. I know you probably could have had other stuff like a shower and a break and maybe even a nap or something in this time, but you've got a grudge match to get to.
That's right. It's Tio versus Neo.
That's right.
Chuck Moore with 120 Witch Elves versus my army of 3 Chaos War Mammoths and a War Shrine that looks like a War Mammoth.
Nice. I'm in your corner, so you got to beat Chuck.
Thank you very much.
Even though he's going to hurt me again.
Well, he'd hurt us all, right? Like he'd just plow through us like,
it's a good point.
Tinder.
Yeah, he could take us all.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stormcaster, cool.
Okay, so now I'm sitting here with Jake Berry. I'm interviewing him for a number of reasons, not the least of which is he is rocking the Chaos leggings from, our friends at GW Licensing. But more importantly, because Jake is one of the hosts of the Rage of Sigmar podcast. Jake, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. You are a freaking riot. So
from Cali, where we riot, not rally.
I love it. Tell me about your podcast, man.
Yeah, so we are 1 episode deep. Hopefully we will have over 15 listeners on this next episode, which is actually we're recording tomorrow, which probably for most people listening is going to be the past, which is going to be Monday of Labor Day. But second episode is going to come out soon. We're interviewing Tony Pacheco of War Scroll Builder fame.
You betcha.
Yep. And so Rage of Sigmar is both for new players to Age of Sigmar and also to your veteran players who are trying to get a little bit deeper into the community. Maybe not so much on the tactical side because both Joseph and myself are pretty garbage at the game, to be honest. But our goal is to have fun, get super drunk with friends, and just expand the community, really.
That's pretty much all we can ask as podcasters, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then if people buy me drinks along the way, that's totally fine. At Big Jables on Twitter, just let me know if you want to buy me drinks through some sort of app. I accept Venmo. Credit card works, although I don't take Amex.
Oh, wow. Wow. See, we take anything. We have very low standards.
So I've heard.
You heard about LVO, did you?
Should be there this year. I hope to see you guys there.
Nice. Oh, yeah. We'll definitely be there in force.
Honestly, I've actually never been to Vegas, so I'm pretty excited to go.
It's interesting to say the least. Yeah, it's a different show than this, but yeah, it's definitely different.
Also for the Warhammer, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a different crowd. There's a different kind of gaming there. I haven't been paying too much attention to the GT. How are you doing in the GT, by the way?
I got entirely tabled in the first game. Actually, untrue. I had my Emerald Life Swarm alive at the end of turn 4
nice.
In my first game against Chaos Dwarves. In case you don't know, it turns out Stormcast, even the Sacrosanct Chamber, are very, very susceptible to mortal wounds. It's a huge weakness of theirs.
No way!
I don't know if you know. They're super underpowered because of that susceptibility to mortal wounds. I have no ulterior motive in saying this whatsoever.
None whatsoever.
No, and then second game, I was facing against Clan Pestilence, so that went really well.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not okay for me to be shown on television with these tights and that matchup. Let's just say, Khorne cares not from whence the blood flows.
That's right.
But anyway, so more about the podcast.
Yeah.
Our goal is really just to get people engaged in the Twitter scene, people engaged who might have sort of fallen out of touch with the scene when AOS sort of dropped. A lot of folks from the 8th Ed scene who were maybe more into the drinking and the community side as opposed to the competitive side sort of fell off because realistically AOS didn't feel like it was a supported game. It felt like it was released without the patch. It was released incomplete.
Yeah.
And so a lot of folks turned to different games, myself included.
Yeah.
And we felt like GW hadn't given us a complete game to play. Yeah. And so since GHP and definitely since AOS 2, there's so many people coming back. We just want to emulate that feeling that you get from Skullbros Awesome. Yeah. Where we might talk about your favorite bloop stars and also maybe just enjoy hanging out with friends and talking shit on the internet and maybe play some Warhammer along the way.
Hey, that's outstanding. I mean, I just love the idea. And, you know, it's you're one episode in. Second one's going to be in the can tomorrow.
Yeah,
so.
it's really bad. You shouldn't listen.
Oh, come on. Have you ever heard our first episode? I hope not.
I've listened to every single, that's not true, one of your episodes.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter at of Sigmar podcast, because Rage of Sigmar was taken. And then also you can email us. We're trying to really engage the community around interaction. So asking questions, having conversations around that. So you can email us at rageofsigmarpodcast@gmail.com. We've already gotten a handful of really good questions. I'll preview one of them right now.
All right.
A fun question we got from one Adam Trunzo was, if there was a hot dog eating contest in the mortal realms, who would be the top 3 and who would you pick as the final winner?
Oh my!
We can preview this conversation right now because I'm having it again later this weekend on the air. But who do you think it would be?
Oh, I got to go with at least a great unclean one.
That's a strong call. I actually think Rodigus would be in my top 3
Yeah.
because he has mouths in his hands
And
he has a mouth in his stomach, right? So he's got 3 mouths
opportunities
and the tentacles to pick up those hot dogs.
He's like a hot dog eating machine.
I mean, he's got to be just gobbling up those wieners.
Yeah.
He's got to be. So my concern, I was thinking about the giant cave squig, but
Oh.
realistically, if he leans over to pick up a bunch of hot dogs,
They're gonna
the
fall
center
out.
of balance is not going to be there, and he'll fall over, and he won't be able to consume as many.
But if he has a good support team, they could just.
We're talking about
roll.
one mock. Now hold on,
Oh,
you can't.
see, yeah.
I mean, at that point, then you say like 40 chain rasps, game over.
Yeah,
But I think what individual piece on the table is going to take that?
he's going to have a hard time then, because he's going to fall over and it's going to fall out of that mouth.
Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about really hard hitting tactical decisions that you won't hear about on Facehammer GT. Shout out Russ Veal. Eat it.
Yes, hot dog.
This is the kind of stuff you don't think about, but it could come up in a game.
Yeah, eat it.
Yes, hot dog.
Russ Veal. That's what you meant, right?
That's kind of what I meant.
I'm going to Facehammer later in September.
Nice.
So my wife, David Griffin of NashCon, and a good bud of ours, Joseph Urban, we're all flying out to Manchester for a couple days, and we're going to do London, and secretly between Manchester and London is Nottingham, so we'll probably spend a whole day at Bugman's and headquarters, and then go see London with our wives, and then fly home.
Because it's a family thing.
Right, absolutely.
Sweet. Yeah, I was talking to Joe earlier. He's having a grand time, too. So, life is good.
And he's doing well, too.
Yeah.
He's with a bone grinder giant and a bunch of gut busters.
Yeah. It's a great... I mean, I don't think people see that list coming. They don't know how to... and what to... It's hard to prioritize targets in that list.
Especially when he can shove things down his pants.
Okay, yeah.
But also in the game, too. No, so the secret about Joe Urban is he owns every single AOS army. So he knows how every army works. And he's a bit of a Rain Man when it comes to playing, because he knows what everything does, but he knows none of his own rules, but he knows what he needs to fight against in your army.
Right.
So he's a bit of a savant. He used to play super high in our 8th Ed tournaments. He places well in these AOS tournaments.
Yeah.
He's that sleeper because he just mumbles all the time and wears his beanie, so you think he's some random guy who came off the street and is asking for change, and suddenly he's on table 4, round 5.
All right. Well, thanks, Jake. I appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to be tuning into Rage of Sigmar, and I hope everybody else does too.
Thanks a bunch. Hoping to break 20 listeners on this next episode.
Yeah, I'll get you up there.
Thanks, Bill. Take care.
Take care, man.
Stormcast are cool.
If you would like to get a hold of us, you can reach us at our email address, which is rollingbadpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Twitter account for the podcast, and it is @rolling_bad. We also have a Facebook page, so just search Facebook for Rolling Bad. We have a Patreon page, and that is at www.patreon.com/rollingbadpodcast, all one word. You can reach us at our individual Twitter accounts. Elric is at Elric Edge, and I am at Bill Costello, Castello. All of our guest hosts and any other products or places that we mentioned during the show will have their addresses listed in the show notes.